Welcome back to Spiritual Gangster Recovery. Um, I apologize for my last video. I wasn't going and listening to him because I was afraid I wouldn't like it, and I keep going back and recording and deleting. So I've been just kind of recording and posting. So I apologize for that echoey garbage that I posted last time. I do apologize. Um, so this video, I'm just gonna start from like prison forward. I'm pretty sure I shared I lost my mother while I was in the workhouse on my way to prison. Um, most Probably the most traumatic, one of the most traumatic things that ever happened to me in my life. Saying my last um respects to my mother in shackles and handcuffs, guarded by sheriff deputies. Um, But that, and then, getting saved in the workhouse, giving my life to Christ, was my first real spiritual awakening experience, I would say. So in prison, all I did was try to figure out who God was and, read the Bible, read books about the Bible, go to the church, um, services every time they would have them. The meetings there were kind of a joke. It was just people trying to get their slip signed to try and get, something in front of the judge. Um, the judicial was part of my deal. I copped out to two F2s, aggravated robbery and burglary, and got sentenced to 4 years. Ran wild, so 2 years on each F2, and I had Judge Lynch, which she ain't no joke. So, um, and she gave me that judicial was in my plea agreement. She told me if I come back in front of her, I knew what time it was. So, sorry, my cat gets on my nerves, man. He likes to mess with my stuff. You can see I got all kinds of stuff everywhere, and he just messes with my shit. Um, so I go to prison with the deal of judicial release in 6 months, which took about 8. Um, so prison, I'm trying to figure out who God is and build that relationship and figure that all out, and which it ain't nothing to really be figured out. It's more of an ongoing process. So uh I get my judicial release, I go to CBCF in Columbus. I made it through that program flawlessly. I never had to take it. Um Not to say I wasn't doing dumb shit like bringing dip in and whatever, doing a little dumb shit people do when they're incarcerated, anyways. Um, but that was the first time I'd been clean in my entire life. Uh, like totally abstinent from everything. So get through that, get the judicial release, and then when I get out of that program, out of CBCF, uh, kind of lost. Like, um, never been in the world without my mom, so it's kind of freaked out. Um, I was very codependent on my mother for sure. She would let me get away with murder, enable me, get high with me, bail me out of shit if I owed people money. Like, um, she was awesome, and at the same time taught me a lot of my bad habits with money and um, kind of like reckless living. So I stayed with my dad, and he lived in the South End. So a couple of my buddies I grew up with went door to door until they found me, and I went out and hung out with one of my friends that was like a brother to me, and he's out there, him and his girlfriend go in the bathroom, come out and just nod out. And kind of disgusted me, man. I was in this disgusting trap house out in Hamilton Meadows, and it was terrible. So, um, I was disgusted. So I was like, man, just take me back home. I went back home and, white knuckled it, tried to stay out of trouble. Um, didn't last too long before I was shooting dope, and I was scared to death of needles. Um, I remember they had to hold me down to give me an allergy test when I was younger. And so at first I like mud puddled it, snorted it, was disgusting. Back then there was, Mexican black tar heroin, and first time anybody ever shot me up, I like looked away while they did it. And then, the untrusting person that I am, because I was an untrusting, trustable person, um, you know, I thought they would steal my dope. So I learned how to do it, and I became just addicted to the needle as I did the dope. Was doing odd things, jobs and stuff, bouncing from place to place, uh, on probation. I made it a year to date to the time I got out of the CBCF till I got caught in the trap house. Just took a needle out of my arm, still had blood dripping. Um, and got took to back to the workhouse, back in front of Judge Lynch. She said, "You remember what I told you?" I said, "Yes, I do, ma'am, Your Honor." She said, "All right." I went back and did the rest of my time, about 2 years and some change. Got a lot of tattoos during that time. Um, and I never got high while I was locked up, ever. I don't think. I don't know. I don't know what it was. Once I was away from it, it was like I had the ability to stay away from it for that time. Um, so yeah, I went back, did the rest of my time, got out, and then, kind of fast forward through the next few years, I robbed, stole, kicked in doors, stole from stores, you name it, boosted, pushed carts out of places, and, just wilding out. Also, I spent a lot of time homeless, bouncing from trap house to trap house, sleeping behind schools, shooting puddle water, um, doing insane things, man. I stopped for a while. I went to a faith-based program in Pittsburgh and got really close to God in that time. And all throughout that drugging and thugging insanity, I kind of veered away from God. And in this program, I got to see the actual um, workings of the Bible, and like miracles, signs, and wonders will follow those who believe, and people getting radically healed and transformed, and it was just amazing. Got kicked out of the program for nicotine because I wouldn't give up the nicotine. Got baptized during that time too as an adult. That was another spiritual experience. It's on Instagram. The program recorded it, which is pretty cool because I can go back and watch it anytime. Um, which is pretty cool. So come back from that program and do the same thing, maybe last a little while. And all around this time, like throughout this time, I had been to meetings, especially in CBCF. It was mandatory. You went to a few meetings. Um, so I'd been exposed to recovery a little bit, like exposed to it is what I'll say, because I wasn't really ready to stop, you know. Um, the stopping came when I got in trouble the last time. I had gotten a hold of a credit card from a place I'd been doing maintenance for, charged a bunch of toolkits when I ran out of money. They ended up pressing charges. And it was in Fairfield County, which is not where I'd been in trouble all the times before. So when I did get picked up in Columbus. I was hallucinating when they picked me up. I was doing speed balls of fentanyl and meth and eating Xanny bars that was pressed with fentanyl. I was pretty much out of my mind. They picked me up trying to break into a car or something. Slumped me from car to car, CPD to Fairfield County Sheriff's, probably uh, LPD. I don't remember. I woke up in a holding cell because I was so messed up. They wouldn't put me in general population, and um, went for a bond arraignment bond hearing, and they was going to let me out on an ankle monitor. And if they would have, I probably would have died. But the judge looked at my record and was like, "Oh no, we're not letting you out. You love to run," because anytime they'd let me out, it was like catch me when you can. Um, so they kept me in there. I finally, you know, went in front of the judge, and he's like, "You've been to prison where you didn't learn nothing." He was like, "So I could send you back to prison, or I could send you to a program." And it was like at that moment, could have done my time. It was like a year probably, maxed out on an F5, and I had an M1, stealing money. And F5 was misuse of credit cards. So I took the program, and in Fairfield County, they have a program called STAR. Um, and it's an intense, I want to call it a thinking program, not so much a just drug and alcohol program. Where they taught you about the way that you think, the reasons that you do the things that you do. And one of their classes was a philosophy class, Epictetus, self mastery, stop and think. That was the beginning of the end for me. Um, all throughout my life, I've always had the empathetic, empathic connection to people, especially those in addiction. So I'm in this program, and I have these big prayer circles at night, and I'm having people come to me like I'm the, pod pastor or something, and praying with them, and, trying to encourage them the best way I know how. And um, that was where God showed me. He was like, I'm going to use you in a different type of way than you've ever thought of or tried or can think of. And, um, I really felt that pull in my spirit, even when I was praying in my own time, and my own quiet time with God. Hang on, get out of there. Um, I just felt like God wanted me to do something else with my life, and it was like, if God, you want me to do something else, show me what it is. And when I got out of Star, they dropped me off at the East Side shelter and was like, "Good luck." And I had been in line to get into the LSS sober living program. So it was kind of just like a waiting list thing. So I went into that East Side shelter. One of the guys there said, "Why don't you go over to the meeting?" The meeting was right next door at the Center Home, which right behind it's where the LSS sober living was. And I went over there, and that's been my home group and my saving grace 12-step meeting that's uh, I'm still a part of today. I met my sponsor there. I started working steps, started doing my peer support classes. I did my 40-hour in-person training. Met some amazing people through that program right there doing the training. One of my best friends to this day. Uh, and I changed everything, people, places, and things. And granted, I'm only 20 minutes away at most from where, I used to get high. Hell, if I got high here, I just don't remember. Um, but to me, it's a nice, slow motion, quiet environment. Um, so I did everything to get my peer support. Um, and so the two things where I still fall short to this very day are with finances, with money, and relationships. Um, got out of that sober lit, met a girl that was in the women's part of this program. We get out of sober living together. Well, I had a probation officer in Fairfield County that was like the pit bull of probation. She was a mean woman, but she's also, I needed that. I needed that tough accountability to keep me in check, And I go to move in with this girl. We got a house, and she's like, I was like, I'm moving out of sober living and into this house. I got a job. I started building decks when I got out, but he started getting high, so I had to get away from that. Um, and then I got a job doing maintenance for a realtor in town. And through that realtor, I was able to get this rental. And there was a grant at the time that if you was ever an opiate addict, they paid 3 months of your rent and utilities. So that was kind of plus I was in a counseling service that also had assistance. I was in prime time to get all the help I could get to, succeed. Um, anyways, this girl was known in town. She'd never been in trouble, like legally, but she was known in town for, getting around and getting high. Of course, that's the perfect woman for me. And I fell in love with her. I really did. Moved in together and, it was really good for a while. That was the first time I had been in actual recovery, working steps, going to events, meeting people in recovery, uh, building a support network that was still to this day, was and is still to this day, you know, part of this beautiful life that the 12 steps and of Narcotics Anonymous and the program of Narcotics Anonymous and the God of my understanding's grace and mercy has given me. Anyway, so she starts getting high, screwing some dude. I kick her out. She calls my probation officer because I had taken a couple of her gabapentin, right? I was doing construction, had some back pain, didn't think much of it. Took some of them. She called my probation officer, told on me, and I got sent to treatment. I got sent to treatment in my eyes clean because, I had never, been that long without putting a substance in me. Um, so anyways, I get sent to this brand new treatment place, like the 10th person through the door, maybe. Brand new. TVs, couches. It was a beautiful place. But it was, damn near in Cincinnati, so I was far away from anything. Um, I get there and they're like, "You're here for what?" They couldn't even figure out like how to bill Medicaid for the reason I was there. I argued with my probation officer for weeks to like let me out, put me on an ankle monitor, put me in IOP, something. She said treatment or prison. So I didn't want another number. So I took the treatment, even though I thought it was unfairly dished out. So, anyways, I go down there, I do that. She finally lets me come back. I come back to LSS Sober Living again. They took me back with open arms. The people that were there are definitely a big part of my story and helping me change. God put the people in my life for me to succeed, and um, I feel like I have. So, anyways, I come back, go through that program. I end up uh, getting an apartment through LSS. It was just a little one bedroom, had a shoe rack built in the walk-in closet. I thought that was super sweet. Plus, this is the first place I have ever had of my own bills in my name, like a lease in my name. Uh, and it was amazing. It really was. I loved that little spot. But then, as the story goes, met another woman, um, was in a program, and I took her very first, NA meeting to that sober living. Um, person to reach out to me because I was kind of the person at the meetings, and um, took that meeting in there, and I was still kind of on and off with the one girl, and uh, met up with her, and we end up being together for some years, and if it wasn't for that woman, I would not be in the position I am today. She helped me do so many things. And she had a little boy and a daughter, and at this time, my child's mother would not let me speak or talk to my daughter, see her, or anything. It took me a good 5, 6 years to even begin to talk to her again. So I'm with this girl, and she, my kid's mom lets me start um, talking to her on the phone. So I start talking to her on the phone, and then I get to go see her with my parents down in South Carolina, and it was a whole God moment. You know what I mean? I think that was the second time I ever seen my dad cry. Uh, so yeah, that was a good time in life right there. That woman helped me get off of probation, and I had done my CDCA book. I had done my CDCA book and my work to get my peer support certification, but I couldn't get them because I was on felony probation still. So I ended up getting off felony probation, getting my licensures, uh, applied at a larger treatment facility, and got hired in their housing department. I'm going to kill him. I swear I'm going to kill him. And through that, I, truly discovered my purpose. I want to see how this recorded, so I'm going to end it for now and um, pick back up because this is where the spiritual awakening evolution part of my journey really takes off. Kind of took off when I got to Lancaster and surrendering my life to God and the spiritual principles of the program, and started really, you know, seeing the gifts that God has given me put to use. And I've made some mistakes along the way, and um, I'm just trying to learn from the mistakes and move on with my life. Um, build my career and settle in. Um, So, we'll see how things work out, right? I'm really invested. My heart and my soul and spirit is into this spiritual gangster recovery. I could really use all the support I can get. So, you know, I've posted the ways to support the vision. So, if you're able to, please help and support this. And stay tuned, man. Like and share and comment and do all the things. And let me know what you think. Do you enjoy the videos? Are you getting anything from them? Do you have any suggestions? I'm open to them. A friend told me that the last one was all echoey. I didn't even know until I just went back and listened to it. I want to go back and delete them all, so that one won't even be in there because it's terrible. Um, so yeah, stay tuned for more, man. Love you guys. Peace.